This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome to a new episode of Wrestling Warzone, Monday Night Wars podcast retrospective. I am JT. Joining me as always here tonight is Chad Campbell. Chad, how are you?
Doing good. How are you doing tonight?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Usually we have like a lot to catch up on, but this is a rare. We're recording pretty quick back to back, so I don't think too much has changed since the last chatted.
Yeah, no, been pretty much status quo for me. I did have a humorous anecdote that involves wrestling, if you'd like to hear it.
Always.
Okay, so as I don't think the listeners know, but as you know, I am teaching the Chinese children how to speak English as kind of a little bit of a side hustle. And you can set your schedule. So I set the schedule for late at night, some nights, and early in the morning. And I have this one kid who requests me for like 3:30 a.m. He always tries to do it for 3:30 a.m. And I kept saying no, but then he sent me a letter and I felt bad. So I ended up opening it. I think it was on Sunday night. So I drug myself out of bed. I taught the class and I was just like so exhausted. And about 25, the classes are 25 minutes long. About 22 minutes in, I realized that I was awake, but I was like in a state of sleep. You know what I mean? Like my eyes were rolling back, and so
kind of like Pete on a podcast.
Yes. So
or WrestleMania.
Right. Correct. So I was, it's basic. He's just learning English, so it was like ox and axe and stuff like that.
Wait,
and
was it Axe or or Partner X?
Partner X, correct. Okay. I didn't check the tape,
Yeah,
but I had listened to a Titans of Wrestling episode. So it does come kind of richer. It's full circle back to Pete. And the story that Johnny Sorrow tells of Nikolai Volkov singing the Russian national anthem and getting clunked in the head with the apple. So, like, you can see me in the playback of this video going ox, axe, and then like a 10-second delay as I doze off. And then I say, have you ever seen the video of Nikolai Volkov get hit in the head with the apple?
What'd he say?
The 6-year-old Chinese kid is like, yes. Because he doesn't know what the hell I just said. It's so bad. It's pretty embarrassing, actually, because I look like stoned.
So now, is there a company that like watches these and decides if you get
well,
paid for this stuff?
So the parent can give me like we're ranked on apples, and so the parent
the
could,
apple that was thrown at Nikolai.
The parent could give me the one apple that might have been thrown at Nikolai, and she could ask for the company to review that, in which I'd be in pretty deep doo-doo, but hopefully not.
You got to do more 330s to accommodate them, so they're
happy.
Happy.
My God! I mean, that's what I mean. If they ask, I probably will just say like, I took a painkiller or
I would just
something.
say you were sick. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
wanted to accommodate, but you really weren't feeling well. You had taken some cough medicine.
Well,
Or
that's
something.
true. I mean, this company it's not bad for like a side gig, but they do really punish you if you cancel because like if I am like throwing up and sick, but I cancel a class without 48 hours notice,
Mm-hmm.
I get docked $10.
Right.
So, I mean, it is a high premium to actually show up and do the class.
I kind of
But
wish
yeah, it
you
was just
asked
funny.
if I kind of wish you asked if he knew what kind of style Edge works, if he could figure that out.
if only I'd have been listening to a 2004 vintage vault.
Or be like,
instead
do you
of,
think WrestleMania 29 is the best or second best WrestleMania?
Oh boy,
That's
But
pretty
yeah,
funny.
that was quite an anecdote.
Speaking of WrestleManias, though, that trip is coming. So if anyone listening to this is going to be in Tampa and hasn't contacted us, we have a few things planned as a group. And then, of course, our huge tailgate on Sunday, probably going to be the most epic one yet. Nick Duke is running it back after a year off. And we're at a traditional parking lot setting, which is where he's at his best. And he has his biggest budget and crowd. So he is like through the roof over the moon on planning this thing. So it's going to be a great time if you can make it down and want to join us. And I mean, just under 2 months away, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Coming fast. And then it's looking like I'm also going to be attending my first AEW pay-per-view, Chad.
With the one oh yeah, that's right.
Double or Nothing.
Kind of came out of the woodwork, but
Yeah.
yeah, you will be there for. Are they calling it Double or Nothing or?
I think it is
did
Double
they-
or Nothing too. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that should be fun. Well, a little peek behind the curtain. So, and when this show airs, AEW was recently in Atlanta for the first time, and I'd like to go to that show, but I'm gonna be traveling out of town, which is kind of a bummer because they loaded that show up. So,
well, it's funny because April is so loaded for me. We have I have to go away for work for a couple days right at the beginning. Then Tampa, that's like 5 days, 4 or 5 days. Then for Easter, we're going to New York because I didn't realize that when I'd got tickets for us to see Elton John because we had seen the movie and like we were pretty into it. And so I'm like, let's go. So we're going with the cowboy and his wife. And I didn't realize it was Easter, the night before Easter when I got these tickets. So I'm like, shit, like that's a late, come back from Brooklyn. Like that's a late night. Kids are going to get up for the Easter Bunny. And then we had talked about staying over, but then I'm like, what are we going to do? Drive home super early. So now we're going to take the kids and my mother-in-law is going to come and we're just going to stay in the city for Easter. So that's the weekend after Tampa. And then it's just like a couple other things in the rest of the month too. But Raw is in Providence the week after Mania and AEW is in Boston like that week too, I think. Well, I'm not going to do either of those, but it's just like, geez, like it always comes in these huge clusters. Like I'll go,
yeah.
I haven't been to a wrestling show in like forever. I think the last one was Takeover Bridgeport, whenever that was, like June. And then it's always like this big clump of them come up at once. And I'm like, I would have tried to go up to Boston to see the AEW, but it worked out. Now I'll see the pay-per-view instead. But
yeah, it's the Easter is throwing us off because that's when we're on spring break. So that's why we have to take the only day we could take our cruise is the Saturday before Mania because with the 7-night cruise it'd come back the Saturday before Easter and then we could get back in that night. So kind of sucks, but is what it is. Have I told you my theory about my working theory? I mean, this is just a personal preference, but I think with live events, I like going to wrestling shows live. I like going to concerts. I like going to sporting events. But I think I'm becoming one of these maybe anti-live people, and that I enjoy it. But I don't know.
I'm in the middle. All right, so it has to be like a real big wrestling show now, or something I really want to see to get me out of the house. Like Raw and Providence isn't a draw for me anymore. Like my mother will always ask me, she's like, "Oh, you going?" And I'm like, "Nah." Like I've been to so many that it's like, and I know it sounds spoiled because some people don't even get to go to any because it's not ever there. But I've been to so much that like a random Raw in Providence, like it's a commitment. It's like 3 hours. You get the commercial breaks. I'm like, I don't have it in me to go there. And I'm getting closer with that with sports. Outside of like going to the Providence games, which are it's easy for me, and I obviously a diehard fan of the team. and maybe like a baseball game a year, I don't have a lot of interest to go. Like football games do not interest me. I'd much rather watch between fantasy and the weather and the prices. Like I'm 100% with you there. Like I'd much rather stay home and just watch it. And I'm not a huge concert guy either. Like 1 or 2 a year is like good for me for that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, college football is actually the one thing that I don't think you can replicate with the home experience that I've seen. But even like baseball, like I used to go to baseball games, and we went to, I think, 3 Braves games this last season.
Mm-hmm.
And just between, like my fat ass trying to cram into the seats, it being hot as hell, parking, I mean, just everything all in. I was like, I mean, I'll probably go to 1 for sure this year just to take Caden, but it's not a priority for sure. It's like, I don't know, man.
Right. It's a commitment. I think baseball is actually, outside of college basketball, which for me is pretty affordable and quick and fun. Baseball I've actually found to be the most affordable to go to, and whether it's a minor league game or even like, I know the joke is that Yankee Stadium's like super overpriced or whatever, but you can get in there for like $20. Like, it just depends where you want to sit. So like that, to me, that's actually the easiest to do. Pro basketball, pro hockey, pro football, like that shit's like super expensive now. Like it's like, unless you get a hookup, like to go to a Celtics, like I want to take my family to a Celtics game, it's like you're in a decent amount, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But and even like going, like I don't go to Fenway now because it's a dump. But if you pay to go there, it's expensive. So I'll usually do like 1 Yankee game a year, just because it's, I think last year I got tickets for $25 for the 4 of us a piece, and it's not that bad to get down there for us. So 1 a year for me is like good, for that.
Yeah.
And then we're losing the Paw Sox. I haven't really gone much lately, but minor league baseball is fun because you're not like super committed to the team, so you can just kind of go and have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, the closest one for me there is still an hour away,
Right.
with Rome, and that's single A, but yeah, it's not bad. I've actually started thinking I may dabble into. I mean, I've been gradually keeping up with the prospects more on baseball end, but I think I'm gonna go full all in, so to speak, this year.
Yeah.
May even get the MI LB TV,
Wow.
which is going all the way.
I did get my once a year excitement email for my MLB TV re-up. I've gotten that email every year for like 13 years, and
Yeah.
I just just love it.
Gear up. All right, so
Are you gearing up? You ready to fire up?
thank you for joining PTBN's Extra Point.
Hey, we're only 11 minutes in. That's pretty good for us. We usually hit 20 before we start.
Sure, this is the doctor.
Don't ever do that to yourself. All right, so last episode we talked In Your House 6, and we put a bow on the February pay-per-views. So now, in earnest, we are starting the build to WrestleMania 12 on the Raw side. And on WCW's end, we really have a decent amount of time, a chunk, before we get to Uncensored. So we have, what did we say last week? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I think it's 4 weeks of TV and then Uncensored.
Yeah, and we've already had a week as well.
Yeah, they've already had. So yeah, there was 5 weeks of TV. Well, they missed that 1 week, so we'll have, I don't know, fuzzy math, but yeah. It's a while. It's
right.
not.
It's technically 6
2
weeks. I think it's 5 episodes, 6 weeks.
Okay.
And for Raw, they have 5 as well, because we're not. We got 5. I think until we get to WrestleMania, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6.
6. I think
6
right.
6 weeks of Raw, yes, before Mania. So we get a lot of build to get through, a lot of hype, and that's where we're gonna start because we're coming off In Your House, so we always do the show the night after the pay-per-view. So why don't you tee us up?
Yeah, so this was I had one small anecdote on In Your House that I forgot to mention. Do you realize that was the first pay-per-view ever for WWF that did not feature or I think it's first since Wrestling Classic that did not feature a multi-man match.
Like not a tag, you mean?
Yeah, not a tag or like Survivor Series or anything like that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it was all singles matches. There was one on the the 3 matches they had after the show. Mm-hmm. I think there was a tag. I meant to look that up, but there was one there that was for the live crowd. Now, as far as and the reason I know that is I was listening to Voices of Wrestling Rumble Rewind series, and Rich quoted 2000, I think it's 5 Royal Rumble as the first pay-per-view ever in WWF history not to have a like tag or multi-man type match. And I smocked him real quick and let him know that In Your House 6 did not even did have the dart match for the crowd, but as far as the pay-per-view, it did not. So yeah,
we've uncovered a few things. You know, that first ever women's Raw main event. Know this?
Yeah. Little fun fact there.
That's the whole point of the show, to dig up those hidden nuggets on these lost shows.
Yes. So we get our Raw opening. This is the February 19th edition of Raw and Nitro we'll be talking about tonight. Intro is done by Vince. He says, last night at In Your House, things took an eerie turn. Oh, my goodness. The hunt for lost souls resumed. So a lot of heavy imagery from Vince here.
And we do get the great production music here that they use a lot during this 96 to 90 era.
Yeah, very, I don't even know what that is. Like, what musical instrument?
And I actually found a lot of that when the ill-fated Kevin Kelly Podcast League was running. Like, we were trying to keep it pretty generic with the music, and I found a bunch of that old WWF production music from that period, and like those songs take me right back. Like, those are some of my favorite pay-per-view opening video packages and whatnot. But yeah, so we get that there. We also, before the show started, by the way, we get Sunny on the beach with the graphic nature warning again. This is a full-on Hachimachi Sunny in this one.
Yeah, they're definitely sexing it up, as you can tell. There's a few things on this show we can tell that they're maturing for sure. Razor's shown, he hypes the matchup with Goldust later today, and then of course Vince says, and what about the Ultimate Warrior? So they dropped that bomb right here in the intro. Yeah.
It's funny too, because I thought my head is all messed up. I think I always get it mixed up with the Vader announcement. I always thought the Warrior thing was like earlier in the year, but I guess that wouldn't have made sense. They wouldn't have hyped it for that long, so it is here. Because they kind of did it the same way as Vader. You know, like he just kind of said it, that he was, they hyped him. So it seems like they're, you know, and I didn't mind the strategy. Like, it's random and kind of weird, but I kind of like that tease out of the gate, because, I mean, they are competing. And if you are interested in what they're going to say, like, that's a great way to do it. And they don't specify when or what they're going to do. So you kind of have to keep checking or sticking with them if you want to find out the news.
Yeah, I don't know if Herb had this in his newsletter.
We'll find out in 7 years on the PTB podcast.
I did read the Observers around this time, and Dave didn't mention before this week. So it seems like it was kind of a surprise out of the blue that he's coming back. So there you go. And then we also learned that tonight we'll see Larry Fling almost live. So gear up for that. Then we get our regular opening. And as soon as we go into the arena, they're from the Cincinnati Gardens for this set of tapings in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, so they were in Louisville, so they stayed pretty close by.
Yeah, it's a pretty short drive there. Mm-hmm. And Razor's music enters as Vince and King give us our intro. Vince says Razor might be a 5-time champ, and that leads us right into our opening matchup, which is, pretty heated matchup, I'd say, for Raw in the opening of Razor versus Goldust.
Would you argue that this is would this have been the hottest match on In Your House if they had it there? I guess maybe Brett Diesel with some of the build, but even that didn't have great builds. Maybe Sean Owen. You could argue this would be
Sean Owen, but it's in there. Yeah. I mean, it's up there. Like,
it's bigger. You could argue like this is more anticipated than anything we had going into last night's pay-per-view.
Well, I'd say just for Razor's feuds with what they did with the Kid and the gimmick, I would say Razor Goldust is heated up more than Razor versus Kid by the end. So that was kind of unfortunate, as we talked about. But yeah, I mean, I was excited to see what they do, because as we talked about the Rumble match, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it kind of didn't match what we'd hoped. Mm-hmm. So I was interested to see if they'd pull through here.
Well, and I think it's been more heated since, kind of, or at least it's going to get there, because even going into the Rumble, it was a good build, but a lot of it was built around mystery. Like, we hadn't seen a ton of Goldust. Razor, like, they hadn't really established a relationship between them yet. A lot of that Rumble match is Razor like kind of feeling things out and being caught off guard. I feel like the animosity really kicked in after that. And I think that was by design, right? Because it's clear the plan originally was for them to fight there and then again at Mania, which I think would have been more of a heated step in their feud.
Right. So Marlena gets in Razor's face, blows smoke from her cigar. Razor's hair's in a ponytail as he starts out. And I really like this opening. I mean, he starts out a house of fire. He beats Goldust out of his robe. He almost uses the IC belt. He is
vicious.
He's very fired up for that.
Goldust he also had a rare Razor ponytail.
Yeah. His hair was in the ponytail to start out here. Goldust does his gyrations, and Razor starts doing some arm wringing on the ground. This Lawler on commentary suggested, like, well, maybe Goldust likes it that way, being dominated. And Vince says, no, not at all. I don't think he likes this at all. So.
By the way, Goldust's bodysuit is so fucking tight. Like, I mean, it is like peeled on like that thing. It was showing everything.
Very, very skin tight tonight.
Yeah.
A Razor's Edge is attempted, but Goldust is able to backdrop Razor to the floor as we go to break. That was a nice bump for Goldust to gain the advantage. We come back from break. We see he was in control, and when Razor tried to get back into the ring, Goldust did the butt to send it back to the floor.
I like that spot, too. That looked good.
Yeah. Some Koshinaka offense to pull a Japanese name out of that. Goldust uses a sleeper, but I thought like his charisma helped carry that segment a decent amount. It didn't drag too much. And then Goldust climbs to the top, and he gets crotched. We get a superplex, which looked good. Razor then does a nasty move where he does his fall away slam, and Goldust takes an insane bump outside of the ring.
Right, he throws him over the top with the fall away slam, which is like insane power for Razor. Like that's one of the most difficult throws, I think, that kind of doesn't get talked about. I mean, he's got to arch back, and he's basically throwing him like a hammer throw, you know what I mean, or something in track and field. The way he's whipping him over, and then Goldust taking that bump to the floor off of that is sick. That's one of the most nasty like Raw spots we've seen.
Yeah, he gets real good air on that, so it looked cool. I mean, it's a very giftable spot to see, and it's one that I didn't recall, but certainly struck a chord with me here. And then he ends up doing a backdrop suplex from the second rope too, which is also nasty. So Goldust is kind of bumping all over the place, and he's overwhelmed, and that plays into the finish. So the finish is lame, where Goldust he basically just hightails it to the back, a complete cheap cop-out finish. So that gets the count-out loss to a bunch of boos. But we'll talk about Razor's mic work afterwards.
Yeah.
But as far as the match, I really like this. I thought it was probably one of the better Raw matches we've seen, actually. And it had a lot of the hate that I thought was missing from the Rumble match in a compact setting. Crappy finish aside, I ended up going 3 1/4 here.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, I went 2 3/4. But I liked it a lot. It was very hard hitting, very vicious. I think it's probably Goldust's best match that we've seen so far, easily. Because if the Rumble was, so if it was better than that, then it's clearly the best. And I like the hate that was pouring out of here, and it continues in the feud. I think you covered most of what I had. I did like you mentioned Marlena blowing the smoke, and I kind of liked it was in the dark before the bell where she was like flirting with him to distract him. Like, I like that. And Vince did mention if Razor won for his 5th, he'd be Hall of Fame bound, which it was a nice touch. And a lot of the arm work, and then just the bumps toward the end were vicious. That fall away slam was gross. And I didn't mind the soft finish that much because the brawl was so heated and full of anger, and this wasn't going to end yet. Like, we know we're headed to something bigger, so they kind of had to do this because they weren't going to have Razor lose again. We're not going to have Kid's gone pretty much. Like, he's not involved in this thing anymore. So how else are you going to have Goldust go over unless you do a DQ? So I was fine with this. Like, Goldust has been kind of booked this way. He's a tough guy, but he's also kind of cerebral. So he's like, fuck it, I'm out of here. Like, I'm not going to keep getting my shit pushed in. I'm out. So I thought him bailing and frustrating Razor even more played into the way he's messed with his head since this feud has begun, and Razor's clearly starting to lose his cool even more. So I actually didn't mind for once the walkout finish. Like, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I didn't mind it from an angle advancement standpoint. Just in the moment, it's kind of lame. But yeah, I mean, to continue the story, it wasn't bad from where they were going. Razor then gets on the microphone. This was a weird promo. This was kind of all over the place. But Razor says he doesn't want your belt, he wants your ass. So there
That
we
kind of
go.
goes against what he's trying to been
Yeah,
avoiding in this feud.
as we'll say later. Well, and what he says later in the promo too. But Razor says he's heard so much about the return of the Great One and the legend from the glory days. He talks about Piper being back. Razor says that he heard Roddy had 6 kids, and that's what makes him Hot Rod. Razor says, he loves the little kids, and then he says him and Roddy are both from the streets. And he doesn't want his kids watching this kind of stuff on TV, implying, I guess, Goldust's antics.
Yep.
So there we go. And then he says the only thing missing is a match, and he dares Piper to make it, which, I mean, didn't Piper just make this match? So I didn't quite understand that. And they end up like an Oscar style playing his music to kind of send him off as he was rambling a little bit here. So overall, this was kind of a weird temperament to this promo. I mean, I guess to advance the feud, but yeah, Razor was a little scatterbrained here, where if he's going to curse and then say he doesn't want his kids watching,
right?
I mean, now he of course just kind of comes off as a huge homophobe, but
yeah, but then he kind of plays into it.
It's like, I don't know.
Then he's like, oh, and Goldust thinks I'm sexy and hot, and he's right. Like, he's kind of playing into it, too. I don't know, the whole thing. Yeah, it's definitely not very focused. But I guess you could say, all right, he's coming off a match, and he's angry. He's coming down from that high. But, yeah, so, I mean, at the end of the day, he's basically asking for another match from Piper. Like, he did one where he can just beat the shit out of Goldust, basically.
Right. That leads us into another thing where we go to break and we see Vince saying, what is Roddy Piper up to? The Ultimate Warrior? Kind of in a question mark aspect. And then Paul Bearer has that. I hated this casket, so I was so happy what happens later on. But the very cartoony Undertaker casket with his graphic on it. Yeah. And then Undertaker emerges from that, which I never understood, because, I mean, it's not like Undertakers get in the casket. They bury the casket, but, whatever.
And they've had that one for a while. I think that one debuted in Survivor Series 94.
I think that's the Survivor Series 94 casket, yes. So we're over a year with this bad boy.
And then we get Doc in the store, Chad.
Yes, Doc is back shilling these shitty sweatshirts again. Same price, same graphics as before. So there you go. You can listen to our In Your House review for our thoughts.
One size fits all, $29.95.
Yeah, it's like an extra large. Then he's back in the arena with the Raw band. So we get the Slam Jam, where he gives us some still shots from Owen versus Shawn from the pay-per-view. That leads us into Shawn, of course, being victorious, being the number one contender. And then we get the kind of the iconic Mania graphic for WrestleMania 12 showing Shawn versus Brett up against each other. Always looked good, I thought. I thought this was one of their better, like, I don't know what you call it, but I guess just graphics of the matchups. Always like the WrestleMania 12 logo, and kind of the contrast of Shawn and Brett's characters and costumes against each other in that picture matchup. So I thought that would look good. Doc then says they will meet in the city that dreams are made of. So again, they're in Anaheim for WrestleMania 12, but they're treating it as, they're in Hollywood, Los Angeles, which plays into the WrestleMania 37 announcement that just happened, where I guess Hollywood's technically, 15, 20 miles away from where this new stadium is.
Close enough, I guess.
Close enough. Then we get some Diesel versus Brett shots. We see Taker emerging from the ring, and we hear that match is now set officially for WrestleMania, and they give the Taker versus Diesel graphic. Yep. So that was good. We did get one production snafu where they cut to a wide shot of Doc where he was narrating Taker versus Diesel. It wasn't supposed to, but then that slides right into some clips from the Yokozuna match. We hear he spoke for the first time, and he wants a piece of Vader. So that was the rundown. Basically, a quick rundown of the big highlights from the pay-per-view from Doc.
And I thought this, as much as I like Doc and dancing with the Raw band for the Slam Jam, and he's kind of doing it like on the fly. I thought this is a bit of a waste to do on. It's a long segment, like, and I know they'd always do this to kind of hype the replay. They'd show the clips of the pay per view and get people to buy, et cetera, et cetera. But we have a rare live show, which isn't often with Raw. So the crowd is kind of hot. We're coming off a hot opener. This felt like just a waste, like kind of a come down. Eating up time that we didn't need to eat up. Like, we should be taking full advantage of these live Raws. Like, we should be having a bunch of matches or angles being shot, big stuff going down. Like, save the Doc recaps and pumping Mania for the tape shows when you can pace it out and eat some time up. I just feel like you want to take advantage of this hot crowd out of the gate.
Yeah, I agree. It was certainly kind of a long segment, and it's tough because, I mean, you only got the still shots, but seeing that in retrospect, it looks so dated, because even like, I don't know, even like, like in Memphis wrestling on television, you still saw clips of the big matches that happened at the Mid-South Coliseum. So there's just something about like still seeing these like still shot photos of the pay-per-view and they never look like great, like
right.
The graphics, it's always kind of, I mean, now it just looks like if you took it on your iPhone, they're not high quality, like glossy photos. So it's just, yeah. I mean, we basically got the meat and bones for the big Mania matches, but this did drag on a little bit. Then Vader just basically comes down to ringside in his black sweatshirt. We learn he's replacing the Body Donnas. And is going basically beat up Aldo Montoya and Barry Horowitz.
Yeah, well, it's not really replacing, right? That was supposed to be the match, and he just comes out instead of them and beats the shit out of them. So he basically
it's not
cancels
an official,
the match.
Right. Yeah, it's never a match because the referee's just in there trying to beg off Vader, so the bell never rings. He doesn't do a pin or anything. He gives Aldo a nasty choke slam, beats down Horowitz in the corner. His cornet laughs at that, and basically just beats the crap out of him and then leaves. So
I enjoyed Cornette.
More Vader being a bully.
I enjoyed him yucking it up at ringside, though. That was the way he was laughing was pretty funny. Like he just was tweeting at Bix or something out there laughing.
He was very excited about this beatdown.
The Aldo chokeslam was gross. I mean, he really took a nasty bump, got completely folded in half.
Yeah, it was a very nasty one. That leads into the Ultimate Warrior video. So, I mean, they presented as Piper bringing him back. So bringing him back into the fold. They have his theme music with clips from his run, pretty much throughout all airs. And it's kind of cut into the Ultimate Warrior face paint graphic. So I like this. I thought it was a well done video. You kind of don't know what he's going to be involved in, but just to get him back in the fold, it was exciting. So I give this a thumbs up.
And they didn't really say he's coming back, right? It says Piper's up to something big. So they're kind of teasing, like, will he, is he on his way back? Is Piper working?
Yeah, there's no like official announcement. It's just basically a hype video. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's no, I'm with you. It was a good one. And Warrior, I mean, I remember being like really excited. Like like Jim was my only wrestling friend pretty much in '96 by that point. Andy, I didn't. I think he was kind of half in, half out at this point, Josh. But Jim was the one, like, I was, talking with, like, full time. Like, we were all amped. And when this came out, like, it felt like a really big deal. Like, because he had just vanished in 92. And he hadn't shown up anywhere else, on anywhere that we would have seen anyway. So it was really cool, like, out of nowhere. Because you didn't expect this at all. We weren't really dialed in. Like, I hadn't really gone on AOL yet. So it was out of nowhere, really. Like, to hear Vince to say, and what about the Ultimate Warrior? Like, out of nowhere. I was like, holy shit. It felt at a time where they felt like there was a perceived lack of star power, and as a 15-year-old, I can't say like, oh, we're missing big time draws, but you're still sitting there and you're like, all right, well, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels are our top guys, they deserve it, But like those big names as a kid, and you see Hogan in WCW, like it felt like a big coup to get a name like the Ultimate Warrior back to WWF at a time where it felt like they were going completely away from that.
Yeah. I think it's a good kind of counter action against the big names we were talking about. I mean, as we talk about, like, this Raw does not have any Brett and any Shawn. So again, they're still restricting some of the big guns from each Raw and kind of staggering it just based on the nature of their taping schedule. But can't hurt to have bigger names coming in. And I mean, by this point, with what they knew may be happening with Diesel and Razor, they certainly needed to beef it up. So
yeah, and right. You wonder how much of that played into. Like, I wonder if they were planning to bring him back either way. I know it wasn't official yet that they were switching, but the talks were beginning. So I wonder if Vince did panic or if this was already something they had planned anyway as a draw for Mania. And the way the schedule worked, I mean, if they weren't going to have, I don't remember if he was working house shows or not. I think he was doing some. But they could have brought him back on a relaxed schedule with the Raw taping once a month. I mean, you come work once a month in a pay-per-view, and like for 2 nights a month, they could have had him on all their TV pretty much,
Right. Yeah, no problem. So then we'd get this same Mania hype video that they did from the night before that basically builds up WrestleMania 11. This is lead in for this show, talking about like how it's a great spectacular. Then Sonny sings Happy Birthday to Mr. President in a 90 for President's Day. So that was very
sexy,
very promiscuous. Has a nice glass of champagne. So.
Yeah, but you got to put yourself in. See, you're living in a world where we've had pool matches and gravy matches.
This was peak Sonny.
Yeah, but not peak Sonny. This is like we hadn't even seen this at all. Like, unless you were watching ECW, which I wasn't. Like, all of a sudden to have a sexed up female on WWF television, a hot one, like, in 90s and lingerie and swimsuits, like this had never been seen.
I mean, the closest you'd gotten to this was Miss Elizabeth at 88 SummerSlam, the Medusa, Missy Hyatt, bikini, whatever.
But even that was almost played for like camp. You know what I mean? Like,
and then Sherry getting stripped by Jimmy Hart. So.
Yeah, but even that was like camp stuff. Like, this is the first where like they're sexualizing it. You know what I mean?
I would say Sherry to agree was sexualized. Like, I mean, her ass was hanging out at SummerSlam '92. Yeah, two guys were.
Yeah, but she was always more like the crazy cougar out of your league feeling. You know what I mean? Like, Sonny felt like not that you had a shot with her, but I don't know.
I was exactly so.
No, you know what I'm saying. I shouldn't say Sherry's out of your league, but more like out of your. As a 11, 12, 13-year-old, like, Sherry was like, oh, it was just like in your face. Sonny was like kind of more of the coming of age. Like, she was only 5 years older. Like it felt more. It spoke more, I think, to people in that range. That's all I'm saying. Like, it was the first really.
Of course, but I mean.
Well, I'm just saying it was the first like targeted sexualized female that they had. Like, targeting that age range, like, they hadn't done that before, really.
Yeah, but don't you think Elizabeth was targeted? They just didn't exploit her.
Yeah, she wasn't sexualized. She was just like
she
was held up as like a paragon of like perfection, like the
perfect housewife.
Yes, a very classy woman. Like, she wasn't going to be out there in a bathing suit on the beach or singing sexually to the president or whatever. We'd see her sometimes, like in a bikini, or not in a bikini, but in a swimsuit or whatever, for like a magazine piece. But not presented this way, where it's like seductive. Like, this is straight out of like the ECW playbook that they were doing, like, the types of stuff they were doing, eating peaches in the backyard,
Yeah, right. So I mean, they're between that and Razor cursing, they're definitely moving into a more adult programming. So
yep.
It's coming. Backlund's still campaigning in the crowd.
He's pushing for that election.
Yeah, they had some Backlund for president.
Could he have? He might have put up more of a fight than Dole.
I don't know. I mean, if this was with all the candidates now, I mean, he might as well have stuck in when you have.
It's too bad, like, Jesse Ventura kind of missed his wit. Like, he was about a decade too early. Like, I think if he hadn't gone insane by the time this stuff happened, I think he would have had a legit shot.
Oh, he'd had a moment, probably, at least. Like, he could have went into probably somewhere like Iowa and start spouting Midwestern values, and maybe could have won the caucus or something like that.
Well, you look at him and like he was just a little too soon, because he wins Minnesota in '98 into '99. Like 2000 was a kind of a prime shot for him, because like, you know, you look at what happened with Gore and the hang it, like all that stuff. Like he wasn't exactly an overwhelming candidate. Like that might have been a chance for him to come in, because that was when he was his hottest, was '99, 2000, like in there. But it was just too soon. Like he wasn't going to go from governor of Minnesota to that.
I mean, I think if he hadn't have flamed out, 2004 is maybe a better shot, because like Kerry kind of comes out of
true.
basically out of the ashes. I mean, that's what Howard Dean and all that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I guess he would have. And that's when he teases it. Like, he just waited too long. Because he teases it in '04 at Mania. You know, maybe it's time for a wrestler in the White House and all that.
Yeah.
Him and Trump as his running mate. Would be preferable.
Oh, Lord.
But it's funny. I had to say, then he just went way too off the reservation. Like, now he's just too insane to make a run.
Yeah. I mean, he had his win. Like, if he could have had his 1998 momentum,
right,
and somewhere like 2004, then we might have been in business. But.
Yeah. Now he's basically Joe Rogan. I was gonna say on steroids, but Joe Rogan's clearly on steroids. Joe Rogan, even more whacked out, is Jeff Ventura.
I think so. Rogan's more measured. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right, where are we at?
Marty Jannetty versus the Ringmaster.
Speaking of drugged up, yeah.
So we hear a lot about Jannetty's new partner. They don't name him, but they definitely tease him. We learn the Smoking Guns are being stripped of their titles due to an injury.
Rodeo injury.
So a big tournament is going to be happening on Superstars for the tag titles.
Exclusive.
Which basically shows what a fall from grace these titles are right now. I mean,
we are definitely
completely in the doldrums.
96, for as fun as 96 is, it is the nadir of the tag team division. The decline starts in 92 with the Money Inc. run. Sorry, Parv. With the Money Inc. run. And, you know, little blips here and there, like 93 and 94 has got some decent stuff. But for the most part, the division is very thin starting in 92. We really bottom out here in 96. And we start our climb again in 97 to kind of the second, however you want to perceive it, but the second golden age in 99, 2001 stretch. But for a bit here, it gets dark for a while in 95 and 96. And we can just see with the teams. I mean, the only good teams in this thing are ones that are kind of like just two guys put together. Beyond that, the fucking, like Vince talks about the match coming up this week on Superstars is the Bushwhackers and the Body Donnas. Like the fucking Bushwhackers in 96, like I would have questioned them being in like a tag title tournament like 91, never mind 96. So they are, they're rusty. And then, yes, we hear a lot of hype about this new partner for Jannetty. And they even say here that they're going to be the new Rockers. Like King calls them that. But they don't really reveal it until the match when they come out. Because I remember, like, not even know what the hell that meant. And at one point, it actually said Jannetty/TBA. And we didn't know what TBA meant. So, like, who the fuck is TBA? Like, we thought it was like a person, like the initials for a person. So we were like going crazy to figure out. And then I don't think it's revealed until the actual Superstars match.
Yeah, I think it is with the Superstars match. But, I mean, even then, it's not like he had cachet. I mean,
no.
Like maybe for your hardcore of the hardcore, but I don't think people would have known Snow had those previous gimmicks. I mean, so it's just kind of weird. Now when I'm just going to probably say Austin because Ringmaster's so stupid, but when Ringmaster comes out, Vince calls him a Stone Cold Man.
Yes,
and he says this like 3 times during the match. So I was wondering, and I don't know if he said in an interview or something like that, but did he have an idea for this Stone Cold persona and they went with Ringmaster?
No.
Or, like, why are we...
But we've already had Ringmaster since December, and we're on the precipice. Like, he becomes Stone Cold in a couple weeks, I think. So I think we had already gotten... Because as the rumor goes, Austin didn't like the Ringmaster name, right? Jeannie... Lady Blossom says he's going to get Stone Cold, clicks in his head, he passes it to Vince. So the wheels may have been in motion.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like he was the one feeding, like Vince was doing this on directive of suggestion to,
Yes.
play it up. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
I don't think this was like an option from before Ringmaster and they went with. I think this had they had just decided to make the change. So I think this is Vince starting to plant the seeds. And then it's definitely, I mean, it's before Mania. I'm pretty sure it's within a couple weeks where all of a sudden he just randomly comes out and he's Stone Cold Steve Austin, no longer the Ringmaster.
Okay.
So it's coming.
Well, I mean, it was played up pretty much here. As I think Vince said it like 3 times. But we get a nice drop toe hold from Ringmaster right away. Some good reversals and pinfalls in the early going. Ringmaster shoves Jannetty to the outside. Jannetty then gets a nice drop kick and a flurry, but Ringmaster slows it down with an STF. He does this. I don't even know what it was, but it's like a chin lock, half camel clutch, where he was off to the side, and he has Jannetty hooked in a cravat, but he also has his legs kind of up under Jannetty's armpits, so it's in like a camel clutch position. It was weird.
I'm sorry. Did you mention this in the beginning? But how he's dumped his look has changed. Did you mention that? I'm sorry. If I missed that.
No. So
okay.
He has changed his look here. So you can get into that with the shaved head.
Yeah, the peach fuzz is gone.
Way.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got the goatee. So I think that is probably another layer that a change is coming for this character. That he's done that as well. So.
Yeah, still coming out to DiBiase's music and everything, but we're starting to see some. I mean, I think this was this the second time we'd seen him, or besides his debut in the Rumble, I don't think we'd seen him.
Well, some of the Brother Love show, right?
And then the Rumble. That was it, though, right?
I feel like we've seen at least one match of his now.
I don't recall.
I can check really quick.
Okay.
Yeah, he fought Matt Hardy on January 15th.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, we saw him on the Brother Love show, the Hardy match, the Rumble, and now this.
Okay. So it'd been a minute, but there we go. I did it's one of those 1996 things, but when Jannetty's in that weird submission, he taps out, clearly, but it's 1996, so that means nothing. Like, he's tapping like a drum on the mat, and just nobody ignores it. That's all. That always gets me for a second. Then Jannetty does get a little flurry after that, but the crowd was not great here. Was not too behind the Ringmaster. Lawler claims that Jannetty pulled Ringmaster's hair, which was kind of funny. Yeah. Knee lift by Marty gets 2. And then the finish is a little weird where the Ringmaster slips out of a back suplex and locks on the $1 Million Dream to win the submission victory here. I thought that the action was okay here, and I think you could see some inklings of something more to come for Ringmaster. But between the crowd heat and kind of some of the transitions in the match, only thought it was decent and probably not as good as it might have looked on paper. So I went 2 stars overall.
All right, I was a little bit higher. I went 2.5, and it was mainly because I liked Austin really dipping into the bag. The stun gun was really nice that he used. And I thought the offense and selling was clean on both ends. They kind of had good chemistry. Austin going to the STF and Vince having no idea what to call it. I liked that. But Austin really going through those submissions like you mentioned. Like, he's really playing up his gimmick, right, of a master of the ring. So I like that he's working that style. And I thought the finish was good too. It was a feisty showcase. Austin going deep, wiggles into a win, kind of outsmarting Marty and really playing up the name. And he's been a good pickup for WWF. It's something they needed, a mechanic like him, in the upper mid card that could just go out and have really good matches. Then eventually, as we'll see, can talk. So, and Vince works Stone Cold in right at the end again. So that's coming. We're on the verge, imminent. So I went 2.5. I like this. His offense is very different than anything we really see here. We talked about guys like Hakushi and Kid that were showing off different variants. This Austin's offset moveset is something we don't see a lot of either.
Yeah, it plays into the gimmick. I just think that the workers of WWF, there's not many that can base for it really well. And Jannetty even here, I think he was so used to more, showy submissions as like a babyface tag wrestler, like your arm bars and stuff, where you can really use your other arm and beg for crowd heat and plead and get investment that way, whereas a lot of this was very like technical, almost to a degree shoot style submissions, where all of Jannetty's appendages were compromised. So it kind of created a little bit of a clash there, and I think that's where they struggled for the heat. But we'll see. I mean, I think we've seen some evolution already from Austin, so we'll see as that goes along.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of new faces to the mid card,
we get another Mankind vignette. This one was creepy. So he says on the eighth day, God created mankind. Why did he create all of you normal and forget so many parts of me? His teeth, his ear, his face, and fingers are all deformed. Mankind is holding a rat that we zoom in on. And then he says the ugliness that exists outside lives inside every one of you. So I enjoyed this. I think
nobody's normal.
Yeah, this definitely feels like a different character and not in a. I mean, we're getting a lot of cartoon from the Dungeon of Doom on the other channel. So I think to have a character like this that does feel legitimately demented and creepy is very refreshing and something that they have a competitive advantage of.
I like the end too.
Based on the two shows.
When he said God created him, but maybe you should have slept that day. Like not in the eighth day. That was pretty good. And I agree with you. And it's funny that this gritty presentation is coinciding with all these cast-offs from WCW coming in, right? And I don't think it's a coincidence that many of them stopped off with Heyman in ECW, Foley and Austin, and we'll get a couple more. But then also you got Dustin Rhodes, you got Vader. So all these guys coming in that were cast off from WCW, most of them had pretty much been in the mid card. Now coming here, there's this big void, and they're all getting these like really good characters. Like Vader is kind of himself, but he's being presented strong. Dustin Rhodes gets this way crazy variant character, and he's just making it work through sheer charisma and presentation. This Mankind thing was like, this is going to be very interesting. Austin, Ringmaster shaky at first, but he's pushing through with his charisma. And a lot of it's coinciding, say what you want about him now, but at the time, Jim Ross rising to power in the WWF and pushing for this more kind of grounded, hardcore style, coinciding with stuff like ECW breaking through, and a little bit of Cornette's corniness in there from Memphis. But again, someone who's a proponent of pure, old school wrestling. I think all of this is colliding along with the desperation of Vince and a very thin roster to give so much opportunity to dudes like this to stand out. Like this isn't, all of a sudden there's this void of wrestlers that they need to fill due to the purging of Deadwood and guys leaving for WCW. Like there's tons of opportunity here, more so than they've probably ever had since like '84 in the WWF for these guys to fill a huge gap.
Yeah. It's weird that we do have this influx in, and they've gotten rid of some of the dead weight, but as we see, I mean, there's still some left behind that they're just going to have to cast off throughout the year, because that was, we come back from the Mankind promo, and who do we see? Tatanka. I mean, it's like he was at the Rumble, but it really feels like we've kind of drug him up from he rose up from the ashes here after his injury and feels very played out at this point.
Yes.
Now, I did look it up though, because I was looking it up. So he was actually on the free for all in Your House.
Yeah,
he lost to Jake the Snake. Yeah. So I did look that up, but
real quick before that, there was a promo for the Slammies, which are returning WrestleMania weekend. So they hadn't done a Slammies at this point since '87, I think was the last one. We get 2 years of Slammies here, 96 and 97. And I don't know if you've ever seen those. they're actually pretty fun shows. They aired late night on USA the night before Mania both years. So like 10 o'clock the night before Mania, and they're just like drinking in a ballroom. It's just chaos. I had one of them on tape. I think I had 96 on tape, and then I think I bought 97 on Amazon. But they're pretty fun. And then we get the big plug for next week. There's a pretty big show next week.
Yeah, so he was banished on Raw and brutalized in Your House. Now it's payback time, and it's Yoko versus Bulldog and Owen in a handicap match. We learned that Diesel will unleash his fury, whatever that means. We get quite possibly the most random matchup I've ever heard. Isaac Yankem versus Jake Roberts.
Yeah.
Which I have no idea. They were feuding or what
No,
was
I think
going
it's just
on
a
with
random
that.
match. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a good way. Yankem's a good guy to feed to Jake because he's got a decent look and he's been presented as a threat, but he's not going anywhere. So like Jake beating him's not going to be much. So.
And then we learn there'll be a face-to-face with Brett and Sean next week. So I think that's the main attraction along with the Yoko match from what we got here on the promo.
Yes.
Taker's dominant to start. It's Undertaker versus Tatanka.
Yep.
Taker's dominant to start. There was something weird was going on in the crowd where like security and the ushers were discussing, and everybody if you're looking at the hard cam, was on the right hand side where a lot of the bottom row of seats were distracted. So I always enjoy when that happens, but it only happens for a little bit. But then Tatanka actually got a Samoan drop on Taker, which I was shocked at.
The old papoose to go.
Yeah, and we see Diesel come down to ringside with an axe. Vince screeches, "We're live tonight," so I don't know what he thought.
If he hacks it up, we're going to show it.
I don't know what he was expecting Diesel to do, but Diesel ends up grabbing a cameraman. They head back to the back as we go to our break. We come back from the break. We get a split screen as Diesel demolishes that cheesy casket as Tatanka works a headlock. So this is a proof of concept that, her the expression, "I'd rather watch paint dry." Well, I'd rather watch a casket being destroyed than Tatanka work a headlock, as you see with the side by side.
And I like the idea of Diesel destroying it because this whole feud has been built on mind games and Diesel trying to prove he's not going to get caught up in like Taker's games so that he can do the same shit too. So it's an interesting take on the feud where he's like, "Fuck you, I could do this stuff too." And so now he's ripping the casket apart because Taker messed with him in your house.
Yeah, and him bringing an axe and using that and showing that, I think that again goes into the edginess that's been presented. I mean, that's probably a weapon besides a demolition axe or X that has not been. I can't remember another point in WWF history where axe was there. So it's interesting. Then Taker starts his comeback. He does the rope walk. Diesel is just like waylaying on the casket. Tatanka actually gets out of this choke slam and hits a pile driver on the dead man, which I was shocking. And Taker was down, but of course, instead of going for the cover with Taker out cold, he just sort of stands around and does the cross throat gesture. So he looks like a complete dope. Then he's going for some other move. Taker grabs him by the throat, hits the choke slam, and the tombstone, and ends up winning. So for the match, I mean, this is an ankle advancement match. Tatanka was just there to do job duty. Him getting the pile driver and a couple of other moments of offense I thought was a little odd because he's so washed.
Right.
I actually thought it'd be a little more dominant for Taker. But as an overall match, I only went 1.5 stars.
No, this is some of our most variants. I went 2.25. Like I thought it was fine, but it all existed just like you said for the Diesel stuff. I think it's the only reason that Tatanka got any offense was so they could slow it because Taker couldn't be in control while Diesel's destroying the casket. Right, he's going to be kind of getting worked over. The question is why Tatanka? Like they could have done like Bulldog or something here. Like someone believable that's been pushed lately. And maybe that could have worked a little bit cleaner here. Even Owen, it's someone that could believably control Taker for a bit, besides Tatanka, who just feels like a relic. And the funny thing is, I was actually thinking this match would have been pretty hot in like 93, 94 by this point.
Oh, yeah.
Not so much. Vince has already, he hyped Diesel being around like all night. Like, Taker's here, Diesel could be here. And then a lot of house show hype as well during this match. Tatanka did feel a step slow, but I thought some of the stuff he did hit was smooth. Like you called it out. The papoose to go, the pile driver was nice. So like there's glimmers in here from him. But he does feel a little bit just left behind at this point. Like it's crazy he's still around. And I thought the tombstone was good too. Like sometimes it's sloppy, but I thought he really nailed it here. So again, all background just for the Diesel stuff, which is fine. Like I thought that was fine because the Diesel Taker feud is an interesting one to me, and I'm fine if we're using matches like this to further it.
Yeah. So Taker sees what's going on in the back. He rushes back there. They cut to Vince and King, and Lawler says he wants to go to the back. And while they're talking, the fan that's in the front row has his hand on the King's jacket, and King just like shoves it away in a very funny moment. Then we get Larry Fling live. So the King impersonation for Larry King was
I thought it was pretty good. No,
it was okay.
Tonight on Larry Fling live, like he looked, he didn't, he had the look a little bit. I thought he had like the voice and the mannerism down.
I kind of thought this might have been a spot for Ed Ferrara, but it was not to be. We hear from Billionaire Ted telling him, "Don't forget I own you too, Larry." And then a kind of a, I guess this was supposed to be a joke of him shilling for WWF, but he says, "I was watching In Your House with Bobby De Niro and I loved it." So I get,
well, no, I think it's like first of all, I liked Fling calling out his ex-girlfriends or his girlfriends and his ex-wives. That was funny. No, I think it was meant to be like Ted doesn't even know what the fuck he owns. Like Fling's like, "I loved In Your House. I was watching with Bobby De Niro. Oh, thanks."
Okay.
I think it's meant to be like Ted's an idiot and doesn't even know like that this wasn't his show that Larry Fling was complimenting.
Then we start getting the phone calls.
Yes.
Randy from Sarasota is on the phone. He has a problem with thinning hair.
You're an idiot.
So I didn't really like that one or find that one too funny. But now Terry from Tampa calls in.
I did like Ted calling him an idiot. I thought that was funny.
I like Terry from Tampa, where Ted immediately knows it's the huckster. Terry says, "Look, brother, I've been hit by a lady's high heel shoe, size 7." And, asked for advice for that, so that was funny.
Well, he asked for Monday night off. He says, "Can I have next Monday off?"
Needs the Monday off after being that. Then Jane from Hanoi is last. It says she's on Golden Pond.
Is this Hanoi Jane?
And then we learn that Sears is called and Billionaire Ted's suits are ready for pickup. Well, so
this is when the chuckles are fine here, and then it goes nasty from here. But real quick on the Terry from Tampa thing, like I do like how real time this all feels. Like they're reacting. Because they never do this, but they're reacting in real time to like what had been going on Nitro, like the heels and stuff. Like it made it feel very, I don't want to call it cutting edge because it's still kind of bland humor, some of it, but it at least feels like, all right, we're in the moment right now. Like this shit is actually happening, and they're mocking stuff it's like SNL in a way, right? Like they're mocking something that's going on, like in the moment. So I thought that part of it was pretty good. Like it didn't feel stale because yes, Hogan just got hit with the shoe. Like that's something that's going on. And it's becoming a joke, and now they're even picking up on it. So I thought that part of it was funny. But then we go to pure nastiness. This Fling rants about Turner controlling the media and monopoly of wrestling, predatory actions. Talked about WCW's losses not being disclosed to the shareholders. Huckster's salaries being charged to other profitable businesses and not WCW. Why are you ignoring the Wall Street Journal story? Stock swindling involved in the merger. Like, I mean, he just unloads with all this fucking shit that is so inside baseball and so nasty. And then Ted says he has chronic laryngitis. Fling said it's going around in his wrestling organization. And next week we'll get Huckster and Nacho Man to hype and their Mania match because Ted is going to be the referee at Mania for that. But I didn't think this was the worst one. I thought it started like funny enough, but it went downhill fast. I don't mind the camping ones when these get nasty and personal is when I don't care for them.
Yeah, this took a big turn. I did like one more thing, like when they cut to the last graphic of Billionaire Ted, underneath it said owns a Sears charge card, which was a nice attention to detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know the insinuation, I guess, that Ted's cheap and Bud's cheap suits, but yeah, it was what it was. But yeah, I agree. This started good and then got
once it
vicious.
gets nasty, it's nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, the stock swindling and hiding losses and like all this stuff. It's just like Vince is like out of his mind at this point.
And then we also like very quickly tonally shift from that to Paul Bear crying over
I was
the
dying
casket.
during this. He's like waddling around and screaming.
Yeah, and Taker looking real pissed as we fade to black. So a very left turn ending here to Raw to go from Larry Fling to that.
Well, his custom ride was destroyed.
Let's get into our end of show awards.
Mm-hmm.
So best match pretty easily, I think, is Razor versus Goldust.
Yes.
And best performer.
Best moment.
Oh, best moment. What are you going for that?
I went the Warrior tease. I thought it was really well done. It's the biggest moment of the night, I think, in a way. So, but there was some good choices here for this. I thought we had a good competition.
Yes, I am going to go with Diesel killing the casket.
Yeah, that's a good one too. That's pretty iconic.
So I didn't remember that actually.
No.
But I don't. I mean, this is around the time where I don't think I was watching every week. So
I think it's one of the more memorable parts of the build to this feud was him chopping that up.
Yeah, I would definitely remember like the In Your House 6 stuff, but not this.
Right.
Your MVP, who did you go for that?
I would have Ramon. I enjoyed him in that match, and his promo was good enough to keep things going. Diesel would be my runner-up.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to go Diesel, I think, because the promo was a little too rambly for me from Razor. So
fair.
I will do that. Commentary, what you got?
Tonight, the dark spirits hunt for lost souls resumes. That was the Vince quote from the Open. You gotta love a woman that smokes cigars, Lawler. No thanks, Vince. You talk about a stone cold man. That was Vince. He can tie Jannetty to so many knots you'll need the Boy Scouts to untie him. That was King. Shots fired. I just had Billionaire Ted.
Okay, and the no debuts are ratings. This got a 3.1, which is that's a good rating for Raw. They got a 2.7 the last time they aired, 2.4 the week before that.
Well, coming off the pay-per-view, the build to Mania, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to see when this was. I think this was their biggest rating this year.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely in the hype for Mania.
And what was your rating?
I ended up giving this one a 6 out of 10. I thought this was it was kind of one of those shows where it was a breezy watch. I didn't think everything landed well, but I thought as far as a break from what we'd seen and leading into Mania without much hype for the main event, we really didn't get a whole lot from Sean and Brett here except teasing next week and the graphic. They did a good job. I mean, they did a good job of laying a lot of the groundwork for the undercard of Mania here. So 6 out of 10. Solid show.
Yeah, about the same for me. I went 6.5. I really like that. The Razor Jannetty match. I like the Diesel stuff. The Warrior hype was a big deal. I like Austin was fun. I thought there wasn't too much downtime on this at all. Even the commentary was good. The live shows for Raw are always a big step up. If they just would use that dock time a little bit better, like maybe one more angle or match in there. We also got the Vader stuff, which was good too. So, I mean, they jammed a lot into this hour.
Yeah, this was our highest rating, period.
Ever?
Since we started doing the show. Yeah.
It might have been one of their highest ever. They might not have really touched that before the war started.
Yeah, they might not have touched a 3.
Yeah.
So yeah,
right,
good for them.
March to Mania is on, just like the March to Mania for PTBN is on. Speaking of PTBN, on this very wrestling feed here, Chad, there's tons of shows. The Place to Be podcast. That's me and Scott going chronologically through the history of WWE. Recently, we just did the April 1990 MSG House show, and coming up very soon is the July '89 Saturday Night event, which is July 90. Arguably one of the best Saturday Night events in history. That one is. So looking forward to chatting about that. You also got Main Event. That's every other week with Scott Criscolo, brother Nate Milton, and Steve Willey. They talk about the current events in the world of wrestling, plus some classic New Japan matches, some classic TNA stuff they do here time to time. So lots going on Main Event. Check that out. Row 1, Seat 1. That's a great show. It's an interesting look inside the world of small-town wrestling and beyond. Ben Zani welcomes in a variety of guests each and every week, or I should say every other week. Also, we have Talkin' WCW. That's Tim Capel, Greg Phillips, Jennifer Smith. They pay tribute to the legendary promotion from the Dirty South. That's a monthly show where they feature a different WCW wrestler and talk about a few matches and break it down. Every other week here on this feed as well, we get Extreme 3-Way Dance, myself, D'Amato, and Jenny, going through the history of ECW, started in February 94. So November to Remember should be out around the time this drops. Looking forward to talking about that. Also, you can hear me on Body Press Your Luck. It's a brand new wrestling game show, the first ever here on the PlayStation Wrestling feed. Myself and Jordan Duncan, and produced by Andy Atherton, have 3 different combatants on each and every month. Very hard trivia questions, and we have a very dominant champion right now, so we'll see what February brings. That'll be out, by the time you're hearing this, it should be out toward the end of the week. So check that out. We also have other monthly shows like With This Ring, where Ryan and Cindy Everett, husband and wife couple, talk about different matches and their respective fandoms. You Don't Know Billy Jack, where Drew Wardlaw and his friend Jordan watch and discuss some of the greatest pro wrestling matches of all time. And also monthly pay-per-view reaction shows, and then semi-regular shows like Jenny and the Gems, No Holds Barred, PTB NXT. That's a new show looking at the history of NXT starting in 2014. The Adams Division, Special Relations, and you never know when Jeff Learns Wrestling may make its return. Mr. like Merlin coming back from the ether someday. Also, check out the PTB and Pop feed, littered with great content, offering tremendous shows like the Hard Traveling Fanboys, who are celebrating their 200th episode. It will be out by the time you hear this, so congrats to Greg and Nick. It's a lot of commitment for them. I think it's been 200 straight, pretty much. So good on them. The Year in Pop, Laughing Theater, DC4U, Marvel Age, the Brother Sister Rewatch Podcast, and so much more. Subscribe there. And while you're subscribing, also hit up the Jenny position. That's Jennifer Smith's feed, the home of Geek and Sassy, talking pop, freak out driving, telling stories, and the show that I'm on, Chad, me, and Scott, MCU Journey Through Infinity, where we break down the history of the MCU. We are, I believe Captain America is the next one that'll be dropping, so check that out. That one gets a little tense with me and Scott, so if you're interested in that, it's worth a listen. But please subscribe and check it out. Also, check out our social media pages. The Greatest Sitcom of All Time tournament is really moving along. 4 matches per day. We are in the Elite 8, so like the tournament page and follow us on Twitter to get your votes in. And Chad, on our last episode, we had talked a lot about. I'd say we're in the lead while recording this. I think it's going to probably be over by the time
I was going to say, are you about to make us sound stupid here?
Right. So are you? Is Cheers winning? Is that your prediction?
My prediction, and we'll see how it goes. I'm predicting Cheers wins, beating The Office.
All right, that's your prediction. We'll see. I think I'm with you. I think Cheers is the winner. I just, like I said, you just don't hear a lot negative about Cheers. Every other show kind of has its detractors. Cheers kind of is 11 most of the time. So I'm with you. I'm going Cheers. We called the last episode, and we weren't this close yet. So I think it's a quality call by us. We didn't know it was going to get this far when we talked about it. So
no, yeah.
We've also kicked off our 2020 stretch project, the greatest WCW match ever. You got all year to do your research, promote those matches, build your list. You can follow the rules and conversation, a very active conversation, at facebook.com/GWCW matches, or the Pro Wrestling Only message board, which also has a very active thread, which is cool to see. PlayStation.com each and every day, new voices, fresh takes with Trent's SmackDown on Fox Report, The Week in WWE with John Crow, Paulie's perspective, and Ben's very unpopular opinion. His recent column was not well received in many areas. Don't forget about veteran columns like Glenn Butler's weekly walk around the web as well. And if you're shopping on Amazon, click on the Amazon banner on the right side of the page, or go to PlayStation.com/Amazon. You can help us out as you do your shopping.
Run PTBN as an entire entity with his unpopular opinion.
Yes.
Everybody associated with PTBN sucks. So,
yeah, all dragged down. How dare you have that opinion, all of you?
So before we started Nitro, I guess I don't really know when we need to talk about it, but the weekend before, there's actually the Saturday before In Your House 6, but that is when CyberSlam 96 happened.
Okay. And
that is where you get the surprise appearance of Brian Pillman.
Yep.
Which is just an all-time great moment. Like, I rewatched the segment, and it's a weird segment where, the lights go off, it come back on with Joey in the ring with Pillman with his cane pointed right at Joey, and he gives this promo, basically shitting on the fans, and then they had this planted fan that he ends up getting into it with to pull off the loose cannon stuff. And he's like Carrot Top. He kind of looks like Carrot Top, who he beats up. But all this is still cool and very cutting edge feeling. And I mean, he's still under contract with WCW when he does.
Yeah, we see him again. Yeah, I mean, he's not gone yet either from TV. Like we see him, I think at least once or twice more. Okay. So I don't know if like, obviously Bischoff, like this is a work with him and Bischoff. Like they planned this. So ECW and WCW, they were working together a lot in '94. I mean, they pretty much have a full working relationship because as we're going through '94, there's guys coming and going left and right. Anderson, Sullivan, Cactus, like all these dudes are showing up. Funk. But I didn't know when that ended. Like, were they still kind of working together at this point? Or was this just like a one-time favor for Pillman? Or was he working Bischoff and making a deal with him? Like, I don't know the logistics there.
Yeah, well, so, this is why I do want to see, you're a little ahead of watching than me. So I was wondering if we saw him again because on The Observer from this week, in the fallout of this week, he talks about how this became, basically the imagery that this was a work that then became a shoot. Like it was they wanted it presented as a shoot. It was actually a work, but then it became a shoot because according to Dave in The Observer, he was being fired for real because of his appearance and what he did here and kind of going back on protocol that was agreed upon.
I mean, he's definitely... I don't know if I've seen him again, where I'm at, a little bit ahead of where we are. But I do know he's promoted for Uncensored. And I know he's on TV at least once more. But then he doesn't show up at Uncensored. I don't remember if he no-showed or if they fired him before that. But I know he doesn't because he didn't want to be part of the clusterfuck that happens to that show. Like, he didn't want his image as part of that.
Okay.
But he's definitely on, I think, on the Go Home for that show. Because that's why they tease it. I'm pretty sure he comes out and does something. So I don't know if he's on before then. But
all right, well, we'll have to see because that was the one thing because I mean, the story, but not the actual week to week like we're in. So I was wanting to follow that because reading The Observer from the CyberSlam appearance was really fascinating. That CyberSlam also has a great Sabu versus Too Cold Scorpio match. I know y'all have been down on Too Cold, my boy.
No, we haven't been down on his wrestling. I've been down more on his, just his character more, like his promos and stuff. He's had really good matches.
A lot of crapping on Too Cold going on the Extreme three-way dance there.
We'll see if it turns. I am a little ahead there, too, and, man, 95 is hot. We'll see. But I am curious how long this WCW part... I'm trying to think back. The only book I remember talking about it really is, like, the Cactus Jack one, or the Mick Foley book, I should say. But I'm trying to remember how long their partnership between those two promotions lasts. Because I don't think they get in bed with Dirty F until the fall of 96. And then they're pretty much together till the end. So, yeah, I don't know if the Pillman thing was meant to be... If they were still on good terms, I guess. Or if Pillman just kind of orchestrated that piece of it on his own. Just call it a payment and go in there.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. So if anybody's, watching along with us, it's worth a watch. It's on the network. You can watch CyberSlam 96 and see his appearance. So it's definitely, I think, interwoven into what we're seeing throughout the war.
Maybe the end of the year when we get to it on the three-way dance. We'll get there at some point.
Come back. Probably December is where you're shooting for there.
Yeah.
So Nitro tonight is in Salisbury, Maryland, which I thought was a very odd.
The home of Summer Love, old message board, Bigelow 34 at our pro boards. What was her? It was like her husband, and her brother-in-law were big on the Bigelow 34 pro boards message board. And like when we were doing like the original territory kind of stuff, like the E-Fed stuff. I don't know why I remember they were from Salisbury, Maryland, but they were.
There we go.
Way Pepe. Back. That was pre-you, Chad. That was probably like 05, 06 era.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. I unfortunately only know the LaRue Cornette era of the Territory Wars. Pepe's in a red-black toboggan and sweater, so pretty low-key outfit for Pepe. Mongo, though, has his leather vest on. He looks like he's ready to head up to Sturgis with this get-up. And they set up the show talking about what happened last week with Anderson getting the pin.
Did you catch what Eric said? He said, "This is the place to be."
Yes, he's been saying that.
Yeah.
He's been using that in a lot, and Tony does too, of course, is in the opening of the podcast. But yep, he's it's an expression you hear more than you think.
When you're listening for it. It's in a lot of
when you're
songs.
listening for
It's in like a lot of raps. Like I put a few of them in the open of the show, but there's a bunch more that I always hear. Like they say it in different songs and shit.
Yeah, Motorhead. They talk about Hogan versus Anderson from last week, and that leads right into our big rematch.
Which Mongo, by the way, says Hogan's never lost to the same man twice.
Mm-hmm. They play that up. Mm-hmm. So it's Hogan versus Arn Anderson. Eric talks about how Arn shocked the wrestling world when he beat Hogan, even if he did have some help from his friends. Woman is out with Arn. She's in a nice black dress. Arn wants her to like do a turnaround, like twirl around to show off her body, I guess, and she doesn't seem too amused to be doing that. Hogan comes out. He's fired up. So this is a weird show for me with Hogan, because we've been rough on Hogan, and I feel like I'll be in the minority here. But like, while what Hogan does here is kind of lame on the surface, I thought tonally it fit. So he got beat the week before. He's not used to that, so I like that he came out pissed off.
Yeah.
And it was once where like his heel work actually made some sort of sense to me. So he comes out, he chokes Arn with the jacket, sends him into the post. He catches him coming off the top. He's choking and biting, doing the back rake. And I thought he was actually getting some nice cheers from the crowd. Some of the better reaction he's gotten in a while. It was also at this time where Eric shields the upcoming Baywatch appearance. So we learned that Hogan, Flair, Sullivan, Savage, and the man that left here with his tail tucked between his legs, Vader, is making an appearance. And then they pretty much talk about him getting beat up by Orndorff in the backstage.
They do not hide from that at all.
So they're basically like, if you think Orndorff's washed up, tell him to ask Vader. So they're really crapping on Vader here.
And it's funny because that Baywatch, I mean, that thing was filmed in like June. Like now we're just finally getting to it.
Yeah. That also lets Eric work in that this is where the big boys play. Of course, he can work that in nicely after shitting on Vader.
He also congratulated our boy Steve Grissom earlier, Diamond Ridge Racing. I didn't say what for. He just congratulates them.
And I mean, like, Grissom's in the crowd, so it's later on they show him, but he's in there. So, I mean, was he just touring with these? Like, where are these races at that he then has to come Monday to wherever Nitro is and just show up? Like,
I guess
this is 3 weeks in a row.
Well, maybe it's part of the promotion contract. Like, we'll promote the car, but you gotta, like, we want you here so we can hype the race too or something. Who knows?
Oh my god,
it's
pretty bad.
Marquise Grissom would be better. But it's funny too. I mean, the crowd is pretty pro Hogan, like you said, and Bischoff really makes a note of it. Like he calls it out. Like he's not wasting this chance. He's like, "Oh, big Hogan crowd tonight."
Yeah. Hogan is got them all fired up. Yeah.
And he also got to dig in Dirty F like a couple of times here, even before the Vader stuff. Like this is like a Bischoff. You can tell when he's pissed about something because he comes out like on fire out of the gate. Usually when he's aggravated about if it was Billionaire Ted or whatever reason, he gets pissed about something. He really comes out firing usually.
Hogan ends up hitting a nice clothesline in the corner. And then Hogan sends Arn out again. He chokes Arn with a Hogan shirt souvenir that the fan had. And then, I did make a note here. Eric says it's not even close. They are the most watched program, and they are live each Monday. Yeah. Which, I mean, they are winning, but I would say it's close. Like, for him to say it's not even close is a little misleading. And as we'll get to may not be true for this night. So he's really shooting though strong, like you said. Hogan's dominating Anderson. Arn has his great facial expression showing he's completely overwhelmed. Hogan finally misses a charge in. Arn gets a brief bit of offense. But then Hogan catches Arn's boot that he's trying to throw and punches him, with Arn taking a nice bump over the top rope. Arn then gets a thumb in the eye. He tries that fake out DDT spot that he's known for, but Hogan slips away. He's not going to be caught by that. Big boot from Hulk, and he's calling for the leg drop. Woman is shrieking. But then, I did say Hulk was looking good tonight, but he locks on maybe the worst figure four in wrestling history here, yes. Which is just a god-awful figure four that would make The Rock jealous with his sharpshooter variation. Sullivan runs down. He tries to break it up, but Savage cuts him off. Then Savage raises Hogan's arm, saying that he won, but we find out that the referee has disqualified Hogan based on Savage's interference, which means that Arn has won, and this is 2 victories over Hulk. Bobby plays that up huge, saying that now he has 2 victories over Hogan. And this was, I mean, like I said, this was conflicting for me because I thought the crowd reacted well. It's Hogan totally doing stuff right. And I mean, you can see the politics that takes at play. I mean, he dominates this match.
Oh, it's a squash.
But
basically,
but he can say, but then he can say, well, I lost twice, brother. So right. I mean, you can say he's playing ball. So I mean, it's like you can see through the bullshit. But as far as like an individual match, I did appreciate this probably much more than I should have. So I went 2 3/4 for this bad boy.
Wow, way more than me. I went 2. Because even with Hogan being fired up and wild and justified, it still feels forced and lame. Like, it's so far from his heyday with this style. Like, go back in the 85. I know it's not fair. It's 10 years later, whatever. But, like, 85, like, when he's having those brawls, like, with a guy like Morocco or Orndorff, like, it feels so real. And here it just feels like he's somehow, like, lost his way on how to be natural in the ring and with his character. And everything, I don't know if it's the acting that's gone to him, but, like, everything just feels... like doesn't feel real with him. It feels like he's performing instead of getting lost in the character. And it's glaring when you see guys like Anderson and Savage and Brett and Shawn, like where everything feels kind of natural with them. And then you see him out there and it's like he's throwing instead of pitching. You know what I mean? Like he's guiding the ball. Like it just feels like he's not himself. I don't know what it is. But to me, like even in the fired up attack, it just feels like he's so hammed up and over the top that it just takes me out of the stuff. And the figure four was stupid. But again, it was just basically a squash. I mean, 2 stars to me for a squash is fine. And there was no way Hogan was jobbing again. Fine enough to give Arn the sneaky win that he can hold over him and they can play up that Arn, beat him back-to-back weeks. But you're not really fooling many. I mean, it was clear that he just destroyed Anderson the whole match, which is fine. I mean, I don't really have an issue with it. But again, I don't think it was like that special, but it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least it is something Anderson can say. I mean, Anderson's never.
Yeah, it's like the old Jericho, right? I beat Austin and Rock in the same night.
Right, right, yeah. So it's part of that, and I did think Hulk looked authentic as far as in this match. Yeah. So
and he didn't break out any Japanese arm drags or anything for us tonight, but
the second match, they go
gonna no sell that like your Hogan. Is that what that was?
I'm sorry?
You just no-selling that, just like your Hogan?
No sell that.
Okay.
Moving on, brother. Second match of the night. After that, they go straight to Loch Ness versus Alex Wright.
Jimmy Hart, you weasel-faced Hart.
And Loch Ness's music.
It's like it's out of Ben-Hur or something.
Oh, no. I thought it was straight out of Scott's Halloween theater. It was like it's some creepy. I don't know.
That was like a I thought it was more like a blockbuster film song. It was like
yeah, I mean it sounds like a score, but to me it's like a monster movie score. Like it's a strange choice, but one that I actually like because I was hoping it'd come back after
I was waiting for Moses to follow him down the aisle or something with the 10 Commandments.
Yeah. And they did this really short segment where they basically just show Loch Ness coming out, and then they go to break again.
Yeah. I think that opening was probably long for them, so they probably had a...
Yeah, so that was a little weird. But we come back to the match in earnest, and Wright is moving around. Loch Ness tries to pull his hair. Wright's bumping huge off of that. Alex Wright tries a sleeper, which they talk about as being a sensible strategy, but that gets shoved off by Nessie. Wright hit some drop kicks and kicks, and I at least appreciated it. He was doing a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, he was working hard.
I mean, Wright's working for 2 here. But yeah, I mean, he tried his best. And then Loch Ness gets his boot in, and he does hit a much better elbow drop
it's disgusting.
than the week before. So this looks nasty. It does squash Wright. Literally.
I thought he murdered him. I mean, I thought that was it. Like, if Alex Wright died right there, I wouldn't have been surprised.
So shockingly, a pretty fun squash match for me. I want to start.
Star and a quarter. I dug it. Bobby chastising Wright for putting a sleeper while sitting on the top rope was funny, saying it was illegal since he's in the ropes. Like, this poor guy. He's outweighed by like 600 pounds, and he's just like, do what he can. Loch Ness showed off his power. Like, that was pretty good. And Wright got some decent offense in. Flurry of drop kicks and punches. My highlight, though, was Bischoff having the balls to use this match to hype the international action and superstars that they have. Alex Wright from Germany and Loch Ness from the UK. But like, of all guys, like, when you hear that, you're usually thinking like it's a light heavyweight style or maybe like a hardcore brawling style, like the international flavor. But like when you hear that for Loch Ness versus Alex Wright, it kind of rings a little empty to me. But yeah, no, squash shitty. But I thought it was effective. I dug it. 1 1/4, like I said.
There you go. A big WCW Saturday night coming up. We get Johnny B. Bad.
Soon to be Mark Merrow.
I put Mark Merrow in my notes.
Very soon.
But Johnny B. Bad versus Chris Benoit. Scar Armstrong versus Conan, which I don't know about that one. The Road Warriors are going to be in action. And then a main event tag match that I was interested in watching: Public Enemy versus Sting and Lex Luger. So I thought, pretty good lineup there for WCW Saturday Night. Eric
you
uses
can tell,
that.
And sorry, just before we get to that, but you can tell that they're really like appreciating the depth of the roster now. Like, they're not just saving it for here. Like, they're really showing it off by putting matches like that on Saturday night and their other TV shows. Like, they suddenly find themselves with this really deep bucket of talent. It'll get even deeper, but it's like, hey, now we don't need to just do squashes or use guys like Joey Maggs or whatever. Like, they can use. That they are still using those guys, but they can really put out multiple quality matches on all their shows and stuff like that. Where Public Enemy. That's a good team to just throw in a match like that on Saturday night,
And I'll tell you what. So before we recorded tonight, I did some YouTube housekeeping and was putting stuff in my 1996 to watch folder from a Monsoon Classics playlist.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the amount of matches they had both on Pro, main event, worldwide, Saturday night. Like, it is unbelievable. Like, Flair in April ends up doing a string of like 3. I mean, I'm sure it was all taped on the same day.
Right.
But he's on like WCW Pro 3 weeks in a row in like May. It's like, what is going on? Like, having these little defenses. Like, 1 week he faces Bagwell, the next week he faces Scotty Riggs. It's very interesting to see, and they'll throw out random matches. Like, there's a La Parka versus Eddie Guerrero match from December, just on I think that was on Main Event or something, like, really obscure.
And that carries over. Like, that we get like 3 or 4 years of that. There's so many matches in that catalog of just randomness thrown out there. And even you see even in like Thunder, like there's like in my other kind of chronological path I'm into August of '98. And I was actually, when I was chatting with Tim the other night, we were watching it together. It was a really good Hoovy Psychosis match on a random Thunder that opened up. And it was like, Tim's like, I might consider this my top 100. Like, it was a really good match. And just shit like that is buried everywhere in WCW's annals.
Yeah. So they definitely have a flush roster. And I think from what I saw, like Public Enemy, Harlem Heat, those types of tag teams were really fleshed out too on the weekend shows.
Yeah.
So Eric talks about how a lot that happens on Monday is played off of Saturday.
Yep.
And that transitions right into our next match, was the Belfast Bruiser versus Brad Armstrong. Belfast Bruiser made his debut on the January 27th WCW Saturday Night, interfering in a match involving Lord Steven Regal and beating him up.
Do you know who I am? That was a big talking
So,
line.
of course, the Bruiser's with his nice long hair here.
And we should, just for those that don't know, it's Fit Finley, of course.
Yeah, Fit Finley, of course, coming in as Belfast Bruiser.
When he had that weird jacket with the one like rhinestone shoulder pad or whatever.
Yeah, like the football. Yeah, this was a kind of weird jacket. Yeah. They say that also this is kind of a return of sorts for Brad Armstrong, and he's coming back to be in the cruiserweight title mix, which Eric announces. Runs down the talent, says it's going to include Tawny and Liger. So big lineup for that.
And it'll occur. So there's going to be a tournament to determine the new champion or the first champion, and it's going to occur on 2 continents. So again, really pushing the international reach of WCW, which has kind of been his thing. All the talent from all over the world, and it'll take place in Japan and the United States. This tournament.
So this is kind of a non-match, but I enjoyed it. Where Bruiser has the advantage with an armbar to start off. He's really smothering. He does a nice running knee. His forearms are stiff. I just thought this had a lot more of a gritty feel than what you're used to seeing.
Very snug.
Mongo even says the Bruiser is aptly named. Like the first advantage Armstrong gets is on a float over hip toss, and it did not look cooperated with at all, which was... I mean, it played into the match. He then gets a nice float over headlock. Bischoff says he met with Antonio Pena from AAA to talk about talent exchange there. And Bruiser drags Armstrong to the apron corner and slams his head against that, as well as the turnbuckle. Armstrong is able to use his legs to flip Bruiser to the outside. Bruiser grabs a leg and wraps it around the post. He then starts going through a lot of different leg submissions. I thought Armstrong sold this really well, talking about he was limping on his leg for the duration of the match after that. They do announce the U.S. title match for Uncensored is going to be Eddie Guerrero versus Conan. I'm interested to see how that works out, given Conan's performances.
I do like Bischoff saying Uncensored is a very unique event. Very unique.
It's unsanctioned or whatever, yeah.
And they also hype up that Bruiser's only here for Regal, pretty much. Like, that's why he showed up to WCW, is to take out Regal.
Yeah. Crossbody by Brad sends both over the top to the floor. Bruiser's first back in, and he hits a backslide for 2. But Armstrong gets a leg up on a running charge and then hits a bulldog and a black suplex to gain some momentum. But Bruiser's able to catch him in kind of a flash tilt-a-whirl slam to win the match. I thought this, again, felt very tonally different from what you usually see. Very bruising match, pardon the pun. So I went 3 stars here.
Yeah, this tickled me. Hit me right where I like. I went 3 stars as well. This is my kind of match. Bruiser is awesome. Just so snug, so stiff. Everything he does with purpose, which has always been one of my favorite traits of Finley. Whether it's in WCW or eventually WWF and WWE, it's just the way he works. Everything's a purpose. Everything he targets makes sense. It all plays into what he's aiming to do, and it's all snug and stiff and hard hitting. And he's not afraid to take nasty bumps either. Like, he'll bump around and he'll dish it out and take it. And I like this. Brad Armstrong hung right in with him. It was a good kind of reintroduction for him, and the crowd was engaged, which you don't always get with a guy like Finley, and we'll see it play out. But they were into the stiff action, and he's just fun to watch. Like, this is just really solid. I went 3 stars. I dug it. I was happy when he showed up. I knew he was coming, and we got some really fun stuff coming with him and Regal that I'm looking forward to reliving. So yeah, I'm excited that Bruiser is here on our lives on this show.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it overall. It should be good. And Bruiser, he calls out for Regal after the match, and then I think we go straight from that to our main event. So this is a big main event here. Flair versus Savage. Savage's rematch here. Elizabeth's wearing the short black skirt now. They talk about how intense and wound up Savage is.
Very sexualized, by the way. They're following in the sunny path.
Savage has a nice black and white ensemble for his gear tonight. And then just a great moment. I put it on my Twitter, but right before the match starts, Flair calls for both Woman and Liz to come near him. He puts his arm around both, and he's looking up at Savage in the ring, and he starts singing, and he's got the whole world in his hands, and adds in the woo. It's just, it's great. It did remind me of how he acted in that Baywatch TV show.
Yes.
Like,
maybe he watched it back and remembered, you know.
He's like, I got the whole world in my hands. Woo! It's just so good.
I guess that's where Bray got it from.
Yeah.
I did like too Bischoff. I don't know if this was just a cover or they really did it on purpose. I think it's a cover. He says Flair left Savage's name on the belt so he could rub it in that he's got his title, his woman, and his house. I'm guessing they just forgot to change the fucking nameplate. But
too lazy.
It's a good cover, though. I mean, it's a good cover. I liked it.
So Flair starts strutting around and Savage spits on him. So they really are intense here. I was pumped up for this one, even coming off the lackluster Super Brawl match, because it felt like they were into it.
Running out of steam until this point, and now into it. And Bobby even notes that Savage is being systematic. He's not being his wild self. Usually he's focused. Yeah.
Savage starts off with some really good punches. Flair backs into the corner, gets an inverted atomic drop. When Savage had him mounted and was punching on him. And then I thought Flair really uncorked on Savage on the outside. Just some stiff shots. His chops were great. The hate was intensified. Savage stalks Woman down the entranceway. But as he turns around and is kind of staggering back to the ring, Flair hits him with a nasty elbow.
Yeah.
Like, that really looks stiff. Some more chops and punches by Flair. Woman gouges the eyes. More back and forth between the two as Savage catches Flair and sends him off the top rope. Bobby calls it Air Flair.
Not as good as Air Claire, but not as good.
That's why I wrote that down. Savage hooks on a much better figure four than Hogan here to try to get the win. Flair's able to reach the ropes, but Macho lands on a sleeper, and Flair's able to hit a nice back suplex to get out of that.
Their chemistry is so smooth. I mean, they've had a ton of matches together at this point now, between WWF, 95, WCW, and now this run. But man, they are just like butter together. They just flow right through.
Yeah, I think I don't know if the cage was restriction or they just had an off night, but that's what makes that Super Brawl match kind of weird. Because I just thought this was certainly a step up from that. Then they go into a sequence I also put on my Twitter, which I was just amazed of, where Macho. They basically do. Macho does running the ropes like a crisscross, and then Flair cuts him off with another really great back elbow. He starts strutting around. Elizabeth's clapping on the outside, and that's when I was just like all in on this match for sure. He starts focusing on the leg, hooks on the figure four. I thought Mongo actually did a great job of describing the pain. He tells the people out there to put a leg over their head at home. And Eric's like, please don't do that. Do not encourage them to do that.
You're going to DDT yourself on a rock.
Macho is able to reverse the figure four.
Take your little sister, pick her up. And
it was quite graphic, but got the job across. Got the point across. Macho is able to get a backslide for a very close 2 count. Mongo complains about Nick Patrick's count on that. Macho then hits a good right hand, and Flair kicks out of that. And Macho is punching away, and Flair is staggering and chopping back. And then Macho spits on him again. Flair drops to his knees. Flair then, in a great callback, he tries that same atomic drop spot that he did right in the beginning, but Macho's ready this time, keeps on the attack. Flair flip into the corner, clothesline to the outside, axe handle from Macho, and he's going for his finish when Elizabeth finally gets up on the apron to get involved in the match. And then we get a pretty cool finish, I thought. And I've listened to some podcasts on this because we'll get to my conclusive feelings on this match. But a lot of people thought the finish was botched, but I actually thought it wasn't with what they did here. So Woman sends in the shoe. Savage catches it, hits Flair. He covers him. It gets a 2 count, but Woman then sprays Savage in the eye. And you can see that. And Nick Patrick's looking at the shoulder, so it's kind of logical he'd miss that. At the same time, Kevin Sullivan and Hulk are running down. They're fighting with each other. The referee's dealing with that, so he's distracted. That allows Arn to come in. He hits the DDT, and Flair covers him for the pin. So we get a lot after the match. Let's talk about the match first.
Okay.
And this was probably the most shocking, even though it was these two. I think this is the most shocking match I've watched since we started this. And I'm going to say this was my favorite match we watched on TV. So I ended up going 4 stars on this match.
Whoa.
Which I thought, I thought about it, and I didn't find any fault really with it. And I thought the pace was exceptional. Their chemistry was there. And when I think about the matches that these two have had with each other, I mean, the WrestleMania 8 matches at the top. But then the Great American Bash 95 match is also a really great, just in the sludge of 95 for American wrestling. That's a great one to kind of rewatch, and it will be one I'll rewatch and pay close attention to for my WCW list. But I thought this pretty easily slipped into the number 3 role match that they've had, even with the Flair win back of the title. I just really enjoyed this one a lot. I thought everybody was playing their character well. Thought Flair was at his peak as a heel, but also looking dangerous. So, I mean, he mixed in his comedic elements, but also, just peak heel Flair, peak heel face Savage, where he's intense, but still a baby face through and through. And then the finish, which was convoluted, but like I said, I enjoyed, and it also puts over the Horsemen as a unit and continues with Arn his upward momentum. So all that to me came into a 4-star match, which is the first 4-star match I've given on the TV shows.
Man, I thought I was a little high. Now you got me questioning myself. So I went 3 1/4, and I liked it a lot too. Bischoff really plays up too that Savage's mind and heart aren't fully into this thing because of all the emotions he's dealing with Liz and everything else. So that'll be a big part of this feud, right? Is where Savage's head is at, and as Flair keeps fucking with him. And I found it interesting that they went back to the WWF storyline, right, with Flair messing with Savage's head. But they take it to the next level, and it really works. Like, it doesn't feel like duplicated. It just feels like a continuation in many ways.
Yeah, an evolution.
Yeah. I thought the whole night was good for the commentary and this match. Like, they're really locked in and focused throughout all this. They are really gelling together. Mongo's kind of fell into his role. Bischoff I think he's developing fine as a play-by-play guy. And Bobby's, he's not 100% Bobby, but he's like 85% Bobby, so he's still kind of there. We get more of the shoe stuff, and I didn't really make note of the finish being botched. I thought it was fine. The only thing I noticed was the bell ringing by accident. I think they call the bell rang thinking the DQ was there instead of later. So maybe that's the botch they're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's it, because I think from what I listened to is the 20 years ago podcast that does the Nitros. They were talking about how they thought the finish was Sullivan was supposed to kind of roll in and maybe cause the DQ or get involved, and he missed his cue. But yeah, I don't think Sullivan was supposed to have any physical interaction, because that would have been tough to explain away with the finish we got. So
yeah, no, I think everything played out like it was supposed to. I think the only slip up was the bell shouldn't have rang.
I agree. I agree with that.
But no, this is good. I mean, better than most of the usual stuff. Way better than Super Bowl. The intensity is great. The flow is good. I like the ending too, wild and chaotic. That's pure Horseman. Just all the interference and the blindsiding and sneaking in when you have the window that. That was pure Horseman stuff. And I like the Liz piece of this. It's already been really good since the heel turn, playing into Savage's psyche. He's affected in the ring by seeing her out there. So I think all that's playing out really well. And this is a really fun main event with a wild finish. So 3 1/4 for me. Obviously not as high as you, but it's still a very, very good TV match.
So after the match, we have Sullivan, Flair, and Arn are beating up Hogan and Savage. And out of the ashes... who should come out? But he's unnamed by the announcers. We don't find out his name until Hogan yells it about 25 times.
Well, we can give some hints. It was once known as Dizzy Hogan, once known as Brutus Beefcake, temporarily known as the Mariner to some. Then the Butcher, who butchered a friendship, and then Brother Brudai, then the Butcher. and then the man with no face, the man with no name, and then Zodiac. I think that's all of them. He comes out, and he does. We've talked about Hogan being over the top. He cleans house, and like, what is he doing with he's flailing the arms, like, the fire up, and he's like, I don't know, what are these two guys taking some, like, Michael Scott's acting class, like late night or something?
I tell you, I think I know what he's doing is an Ultimate Warrior ripoff.
Yeah, but Warrior was smooth, like.
Well, of course he's smoother than Brutus.
Oh my God! It's so like.
I think
arms,
that's
he's
what
like,
they
come
were
on!
trying
Like, he's
to
like
convey.
He's like a toddler who doesn't know how to control their emotions, like an 8-month-old. Like, his arms are just flailing, like in this mad direction. Like, come on, let's get all fired up. Like, it's just so fucking bizarre. Like, I don't know what he's doing, trying to fire up the crowd in this weird way. It just seems like a fucking nut out there. And I'm a Beefcake fan, like an old school Beefcake fan. But my God, this is fucking terrible.
Oh, I liked it. I'm all in on this.
Not his movement, not the way he's acting though.
Oh yeah, it's authentic. He's the booty man. So he cleans house. Eric says, "Wait a minute," which I really don't understand why they were confused as to who it was. Like that was.
This is up there with like SummerSlam '90 with Vince not knowing Axe.
Oh yeah, like demolition switching, and Vince is all This was. Not making. I mean, the announcing's done good, but this was a dumb, weird choice here. Eric says, "Wait a minute," as they retreat to the announce booth.
Yep.
Flair invades the announce booth. He's completely irate. He says Hogan's lost twice to Arn Anderson, and he's just ranting and raving when the faces arrive. Mm-hmm. Eric says this is not a war zone, and he has had it. Bobby does a great kind of flip out and leaves the announce booth, all discombobulated and just ruffled. His feathers are all ruffled. And then Hogan. So I defended Hogan in the match, but this is the bad acting Hogan, where he basically says, like, I tell you what, the booty man can get it done, brother. The booty. He keeps saying it 3 times. Like, every time it's the booty man. And he asked for a 6-man.
Right, next week.
Gene randomly shows up with the microphone to get the scoop.
Has he been on all night? That's like the only time we see him. Yeah.
No, because that's one thing I noticed. Like, they went straight to matches for this. So, yeah, Gene just out of the blue shows up. So, I guess he flew in just for that. So, good payday for Gene. And then I thought this was funny, where Savage tries to grab the championship belt, and Eric is like, I really want you to have it, but it's not yours. I cannot let you take that. And it's like getting very territorial.
Savage threatens to knock him out too.
Yeah. Hogan continues to put over the booty man.
If he and they say the Mega Power, it's kind of bonded. Like they pretty much call them the Mega Powers, which I didn't really remember them calling them that, but they do here. Like I didn't know that wasn't like a proprietary thing. He says the big booty man is back on track, and if he can't kick their can, nobody can.
Yeah, love it. Savage also said this was going to be the real war to settle the scores.
Oh yes, I'm gonna put Booty Man on MTV.
And that's how we end. So any more?
And Hogan just keeps saying
beautiful...
Booty Man. Mm-hmm. He keeps repeating the kicking their can line like an idiot. And then we wrap up. But my God, like the idea of evening the sides and making this a super team with Beefcake is one thing, but he is just like so over the top. The machinations are ridiculous. The name is fucking stupid. I mean, Booty Man is about as dumb as it gets for a name. It makes no sense at all. Like, why not just call him Brother Brudai again? Like that's how everyone knows him. Like, so it's almost like they are trying to pretend like it's somebody else or something. It's so weird what they're doing with it. They fixed that a little bit on the next one, like as far as like revealing who he is, but the name sticks and it's as stupid as it gets. Like, it's a really dumb name. He's never been like a booty guy. Like why all of a sudden like it's not like the boss from the Big Boss Man. Like that makes sense, Like what does booty even mean? Like it's so dumb. Does he shake his ass? Does he kick ass? Does he fuck all the asses? Like what is booty man supposed to mean?
He's kicking the can. So yeah.
Oh my God. Fucking stupid.
So that's how we end. But I mean it was memorable. If nothing else.
Well,
Get
it's
the
like
booty man.
we're talking about the grittiness and the realism on Raw and everything. It's crazy that we're talking backwards like this because Nitro had been that way. But it feels like Hogan is still taking us down this path the wrong way, right? We're still kind of half following him.
Well, we just saw it with the match. Had grittiness and realness mixed in with wrestling.
Well, with Savage and Flair, yeah. But
Yeah,
I'm talking
Savage and
about
Flair.
like Hogan's.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, though. I mean, even besides Raw, you get a direct contrast.
Right. But Hogan is
just the
still
match
here
to the
like, with this
post-match.
goofiness. You know what I mean? Like, we're still seeing the absurdity with him, the shit like Booty Man, the way he's acting and talking, the Dungeon of Doom goofiness. He's just living in this alt reality of, back in the day. But even then, he wasn't like this back in the day. I don't know where he is. Like, he's just off in his own world. And the sooner he's cleared out, which is coming in the next, 5 to 6 weeks or whatever, it allows him to purge that and focus more. And he's just like, he needs a break. He just needs a break.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I mean, everything here was weird. I mean, really everything from the Booty Man on was strange. But all right, let's get to our end of show awards. Match of the night. We'll both go Savage versus Flair, I assume.
Yep.
Your moment.
I went the end of Savage Flair. Like, I still thought the chaos of the finale of that match and into the everything, even as ridiculous as Booty Man is, it was still a cool, wild scene with everyone coming out.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't really have anything else kind of angle-y.
Yeah,
so.
No, they chugged ahead. It was a very match-driven show. Like, you kept saying, like, oh, right to the match, right to the match, right to the match. There was, like, not much really lingering in between.
So I think by default, the closing angle with the booty man has to do it. Your MVP?
I went with Savage.
I went with Flair. I thought this was really good with Flair. I talked about a few months ago, like how I had always earmarked Starrcade 95 as maybe the end of real peak Flair.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see. And I definitely still think he has it here.
For sure.
He still has the swagger as a top guy, just the way he carried himself, and
and he's great through all the stuff that's about to come, like with this last, like kind of the last real Horseman run here, with the dining table. Like, we haven't gotten to all that yet, but I mean, this, like, he's still great. I think there's 2 points to earmark. Like, you mentioned that Starrcade, but I think the other 2 points you watch are the shoulder injury that comes later in the year. That knocks him out for a bit, but then I still like a lot of his 97 stuff too. Like, I think he's locked in until, I think it's the Hennig turn is kind of where he takes a step back.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be tough for me to get past him begging Jarrett to be a Horseman.
Yeah, true. But I like all the shit with Piper and Kevin Green and all that.
Well, I mean, I definitely think he has moments, but I mean, we'll see. Well, it's something to track. But as far as tip-top guy, I mean, as far as U.S. workers and their importance and relevance,
right.
I mean, he fills up there with Diesel, whoever you want to throw out.
Yep.
So, and I did think by this time he might have felt, he doesn't feel as even nostalgic as Macho can, and that may just be the Hogan stink. And Macho's been good in this feud, but I do think Macho feels more like a relic than Flair. So,
yeah, no, and I think there's a point coming where you can say he's number one, and that's right around April, May. Like, Brett's gone. The Diesel stuff is pretty much ending. Hogan's on his hiatus. It's really Flair and Shawn, kind of carrying the torch. So I think there's a point coming where Flair's maybe the top guy, unless, if you want to include ECW, like, whoever was on top there at that point, Raven or whatever. But
Shane.
Yeah, of the big 2 in North America, like, you could say this is the last time where Flair's probably the number one guy. I think is a little stretch here, April, May, until the NWO hits.
All right, commentary. What do you got?
I got. If you like pro wrestling, there's only one place to be. That's Eric. Total and ultimate revenge on this man's body tonight, Mongo. Mr. Wright better do some acrobatic wrestling moves tonight, Mongo. Romeo is fighting for Juliet now with Savage. That was Bobby. Check your depends. They may be full, Mongo. Flair going at him like 2 pit bulls in a dog fight, Mongo. And he needs help against his gaggle of goons, Mongo. So I always like when Mongo breaks out the words. He probably doesn't know what they mean, but
shots fired that we didn't mention.
You hear that incessant whining from the northeast part of the building.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good one.
Right. That was a good one.
That was one of the best Bischoff ones.
Yes.
He said the thing about Vader tucking his tail and running after losing to Orndorff, and then him saying Nitro's the most watched program each week by far. But the incessant whining was a great line. I mean, he crushed that one. That was really good.
Debut was Bruiser, Belfast Bruiser. We had not seen him on Nitro. And rating wise, so Raw got a 3.1. As we said, that was the highest rating they've had. Nitro got a good rating, but lost 2.9.
Yeah.
So Nitro actually lost here. And what did you give as a grade?
7 out of 10.
I'm going back and forth. The Booty Man's kind of giving me some doubt here. But I've talked about the highest rated Nitro so far had been the 129 Nitro. I gave a 7.5. And I just think because this did, in my mind, have a great match, I thought this was pretty much a great episode right up until the Booty Man nonsense, and even that I can.
And that was quick. I mean, it was just in the final minutes.
Well, I mean, I can kind of see the logic. It just the execution was atrocious. So I am going to go 8 out of 10.
All right.
For this, which I would classify as at least a very, very good episode of Nitro, bordering on great. So
I gave that 129 show an 8. That was my high, and I've had a few other 7.5. So this is like a top 5 one for me.
Yeah.
But I was a little bit lower on all those matches than you, so I think that makes sense. But no, it was a great week. I mean, this is the strongest week. I mean, we were talking about in our chat while we were prepping. It's definitely it's got to be the highest. Well, actually, for me, it's not 129. I gave Raw a 6 and Nitro an 8, so that was a 14. This is a 13.5 combo for me, but it's got to be one of the highest. Probably your highest, right?
Yeah, this is 13.5 for me, which I would guess would be my highest. I think I'd tap out at 13 otherwise. Yep.
So
let me just check the Raw after Survivor Series.
Well, that was great, but Nitro sucked. I went 4.5.
Yeah. I went 5. Yeah, so that was only 12. Yep. This is going to be the highest combined for me.
Yeah. For me, it was that 129, which was very good. But no, a great week. It's fun to get a really good week and enjoy it because next week dips for both. So
great.
A little bit of drop ski coming. All right, combo awards really quick.
Yeah, so best show will go Nitro.
Yep. Savage.
I think
Flair.
Best match will do Savage versus Flair. Best segment, do we want to do? I would put up Diesel.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay. We don't have the Booty Man stink. Better commentary, I'd say Nitro.
Yeah, Nitro was great this week.
And then Star of the Night. I would argue Flair, but
yeah, I'm not gonna argue much. To me, it'd be either Flair or I mean, I know I want Ramon. I kind of talked me into Diesel. I'd say Diesel or Flair.
We'll go with Flair. Yeah. He won a lot in October, but he's not won on this for us. He did win the 129.
Yep.
So when the shows are good, it's Flair.
Yeah, and we got a lot of Flair coming. I mean, he is the dominant act, I think, especially once Hogan's gone until the NWO stuff. I think we get a good 2 months of him being like the guy.
Nice. And this was their they won the ratings, which they hadn't done since the 122 show. So there you go.
Pay-per-view again. That was the night after the Rumble.
Yep.
122.
Nice.
Yeah, so that seems to be their modus operandi is the night after the pay-per-view, they get their bump of interest. But I'd be curious to track it toward Mania, like what the hype and interest level is. Because coming off of Mania 11, there was obviously not a great Mania, but it was very much driven by celebrity and stuff like that. Whereas 12, we'll see as I think it's one of the few Manias that has zero celebrity interaction. There's
it's got the Hulkster.
Right. Realistic. I mean, there's no real celebrities there. So it's interesting. Like they go complete antithesis of 11, which was all celebrity hype, and 12 is like complete opposite. So we'll see how that carries over. But I'm excited for the build to Mania, and I want to say a build to Uncensored, not because it's uncensored, but because that is the sea change for WCW. That is where Hogan bows out pretty quickly after that, if not right after that, and it's kind of that little zone before the NWO to see. The curious thing for me for WCW for us to track is like how good of a pace were they on before that starts?
Yeah.
Like what could that show have been if that didn't happen?
Yeah, or it could be. Yeah, we'll keep track of that. Keep plugging away here.
For sure. Okay. So we'll be back soon. We'll have what do we got next? Both shows on. Actually, no, just a Raw. So it'll be a quick one. March 4th. Nitro is off.
But next.
I'm sorry, 226. I'm looking at. Yeah. I'm sorry, 226. So we got a double shot next week too. Raw and Nitro on our next episode. All right, that's it. Check out everything we mentioned earlier. Also, check out my blog, the JT Archives at .blogspot.com. It's pretty much moving over all of my content that I've ever done anywhere. I'm trying to centralize it all, but I've also been doing some new stuff. I'm going through ECW on Sci-Fi and doing some write-ups on the Marvel movies as I watch them, and after we talk about them on the Jenny Position Show, doing some write-ups and keeping track there. So a little, hints of new stuff, but all my old shit's going to be there. I'm just trying to keep it all in one spot. So I appreciate if you follow the page, or you can give me a like on Facebook as well. If you just search the JT Archives on Facebook, you can like my page, and you'll get the updates there when I post new stuff and whatnot. Follow us on all of our social media, PlayStation.com, each and every day as well. Chad, anything you want to talk about?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, we're out then. Smell the napalm. Talk to you soon.